Happy Valentine's Day, everybody! So, for this year, I decided that I wanted to do a project for Valentine's Day. Only, I decided to start it on Friday. And Valentine's Day was yesterday, or when this video comes out, 2 days ago on Sunday. So that was, not very much time to actually get anything done. So on Friday, I decided that I was going to do a lot of things. I was going to set my hair, which, it's holding up very well. As you can see, I cut my hair again. And this is the same set that I did on Friday. I tried to make some stew. Didn't go well.
Okay. So, I just filmed myself doing the worst job cooking a meal that I think I have ever done. It is so bad. If I was to watch a video of what I just did, I would be cringing the entire time. First of all, I was trying to make beef bourguignon. I'm still making beef bourguignon, but it's not exactly beef bourguignon. There's no onions because all of my onions were bad.
There were so many onions lost.
There's no bacon because the bacon was bad. There was liquid in the bacon. Have I ever seen that before? No. I was concerned. Then, there's the fact that my cut up beef chunk was still frozen. I took it out of the freezer last night and I put it in the fridge. And for some reason, I thought that within less than 24 hours it would defrost in the fridge. It did not. That was just wishful thinking on my part, apparently. So, not only did it not defrost, but it really didn't defrost. So I thought, oh, run some water over it. So I did that for 5 seconds because I'm impatient. And then I pulled it out, and it was still this big old lump of frozen meat that I couldn't even pull apart. This is pre-cut meat, people. So instead of, I don't know, waiting and making this meal another day like I should, like a normal person, I decided to put the whole slab into the pan. It was not a good choice. I burnt myself. See that red spot? This oil spattered up at me as I was trying to break this big lump of frozen beef apart. So, all of that to say that there might be some really interesting stew on the menu
But the stew actually did turn out very well in the end. I definitely like it better when it has the onions in it and is correct, but for what it was, the stew turned out well. It was edible, and I just ate the last of it tonight. So that is all fine. So I wanted to decorate, and I wanted to then make a skirt. Now, it wasn't enough time for a project, especially since I didn't actually have a specific pattern I wanted to follow. I tried at first to start using a pattern that I have, but it ended up being not quite right, mostly because of the amount of fabric that I had. I wanted very definitely for the stripes in my skirt to go up and down because it's more flattering, and so I didn't want anything that I would have to have them going from side to side. So because of that, the layout of the pattern just wasn't working. Plus, I then noticed that the selvage edge on this fabric was very interesting and that I could actually use it as part of the design. So what I really wanted to do with this skirt was to have a sort of 1950s play suit overskirt look to it. And I think that I actually got really close to the mark there.
Okay, so I am starting this project right now. Well, I mean, I have it cut out so you can see I have a waistband here. I have the two front panel pieces already pinned up here. I'm about to take those off so that I can go ahead and sew them to this back panel piece. This is really cool. You can see here the selvage edge is actually really interesting looking on this fabric, so I'm just going to use that as a hem. I factored that into the design, and before anyone thinks I'm lazy or anything, I have seen this done in couture techniques, so I'm calling that as a good thing. I'm still deciding on buttons and pockets and how to do all of that, but I'm about to gather the fabric. Okay, so like I was saying in my last video, I went ahead and I am joining together the two front panels to the back panel. I decided to do a French seam mainly because of how I'm finishing the hem, or rather not finishing the hem, because I'm going to use the selvage as a design choice, and so I didn't want to have a zigzagged edge showing right here. I thought it would look a lot nicer if I went ahead and had a French seam. So that's what I'm doing right now. I sewed a 1/4 inch seam on the other side, on the what I'm going to call the wrong side. This fabric doesn't actually have a right and wrong side, which makes my life a little easier. And then on this side, I'm doing a 3/8 inch seam. Now, usually with a French seam, you would want to sew the original seam a little bit thicker and then cut it down, and so then you end up with something really narrow. This is a really thick fabric with some stretch to it. It's actually a really weird fabric. It's been in my stash for a long time, and honestly, that's kind of why I've never used it before, is because it has some stretch this way like this, and it's a thick fabric but also not. And so anyways, it has a lot of body to it, and because of that, I kind of wanted this seam to be a little bit wider so that it would fold nicer and not be too lumpy. I think it'll sit nicer this way. So that's what I'm working on now. And then next step is gathering up the waist so that I can put it into the waistband. But first I'm going to have to cut out some interfacing for the button plackets and for the waistband. So I just finished with that first French seam, and I'm actually really happy with it. Here's the inside, and you can see it's nice and neat, and it's not too bulky. But then on the outside, look at that. that just makes it so imperceptible, and there's no fear of anything ugly popping out, because that's what'll pop out. So I'm really happy with that. I might just tack it down just right here, but I haven't gotten that far yet. So yeah, it's turning out well so far. Okay, so I have the interfacing cut out for the waistband, that's this one, and for the button plackets on either side, so those are these two. The waistband is 2 inches wide, and these are each 3 inches. I have a 4-inch piece of fabric cut out for the waistband, and so then obviously it folds down over on itself. This is a fusible interfacing, sort of a medium weight, and now I just have to fuse that to this fabric. Now this fabric, I have no idea what the fiber content is, because I bought it at what used to be Denver Fabrics and then was Colorado Fabrics and then went out of business. They got leftover fabric though from local like fashion schools and design houses is what I understand, and so it wasn't marked, and that's why I bought this. All of that to say, whatever the fiber content, it is definitely full of plastic, which, you know, better to use the fabric than to throw it all in a waste bin. But that being said, I can't just put my hot iron on it, so I'm actually going to have to use a pressing cloth. This is an paper towel that I made, and it's just 100% cotton flannel, and it works great as a pressing cloth because it can handle the heat, but it's also pretty lightweight, and it's a good size for this. Is an 11 by 11 one, so I like to pull these out to use as pressing cloths. So I'm going to do that now. If you don't know how to do this, I'm just going to take my fabric, lay it out. Sorry, doing this one-handed, so it's a little awkward. I'm going to lay it out like that. The interfacing, for fusible interfacing, if you look at it, you can see all those little dots. That's the glue. So you can feel it when it's in your hand. This side here is textured, and then the other side is very smooth. So the textured side is, the texture you're feeling is all of these little glue dots. So what you want to do is have that glue facing down onto the fabric like this. Anytime you do a fusible interfacing, you really, really want to use a pressing cloth, because even if my fabric wasn't going to stick to the iron, this would, and that can really gunk up and mess up your iron very, very quickly. So always remember to use a pressing cloth, a piece of muslin, a unpaper towel, whatever you have. Just make sure it's natural fiber, heat resistant, and not too thick. So I wanted to show you guys how I am doing the button placket here. So you can see I have my skirt. This is going to be the right front of the skirt, and this right here is the button placket. So I went ahead and I cut this down a bit shorter than the skirt itself, because I didn't want it to fold over and then have, you know, the interfacing sticking out. So I just cut it a bit shorter. I'm going to do it all the way up from the top and down. The way I'm going to finish it, I don't really need to worry about like a seam allowance here. And then what I'm going to do, I have my iron already preheated. It's just on hot. There's plenty of steam. And then I put my press cloth over it. And I'm just going to give it a little steam. You want to be careful moving your iron around, because you don't want to dislodge anything. But I'm going to do sort of just like this, and then I'm going to lift it straight off, lift this straight off, and you can see that that now has been fused. So I'm going to do that all the way down, and I'm going to do that on all 3 sections that I have to interface. So yeah. Okay, so you can see here, I have the skirt attached to the waistband. See, it's all nicely gathered in there. I'm actually really happy with how this fabric gathered. It's a very odd fabric because it's thin and thick at the same time, but it gathered really nicely. So I have it all sewn onto the waistband on this side, and then I have it turned. This is the inside. You can see here the button placket, and I'm just going to top stitch through this. The top stitching is wonderfully invisible on the right side of the fabric. It just sort of sinks right into this nice stretchy fabric. Like, I can't even find it over here, even though I know that this is top stitched. Oh, there it is. So you can see this is top stitched, but also you can't see it very much at all. So I'm going to top stitch this right in the ditch here. Also, excuse my nail. We're gonna pretend that's not a thing. So yeah, that's what I'm working on now. And then next I'm going to make buttonholes and then sew on the buttons, and then I just have to make the patch pockets. Okay, so I have my buttonholes marked. You can see the little blue lines there. I did them a ½ inch in from the finished edge here and 4½ inches apart. So I have all 6 of them marked there. I just marked the very beginnings, and now I'm going to go ahead and attach my handy dandy trusty little buttonhole maker. Now this is, as you can see, a lot clunkier than what some modern machines have, but it works pretty well. It actually works with, I need 2 hands for this, with gears inside. So these are the different sized buttonholes. You see that center line there is the actual finished size of the buttonhole. You have to be careful because, as you can see, there's machine grease on my fingers now. So I just have to measure my buttonhole against one of my little gears here, input it here, attach the machine, and then I can get to work.
Dylan and I were planning on doing a bike ride at the beach, followed by a bonfire and picnic. And best laid plans of mice and men, let's just say that, because we started out with me sewing pockets onto my skirt that morning and both of us trying to put together our picnic. I am still very happy because, as you can see, I now have a picnic basket, and it is the cutest little thing, and I'm absolutely in love with it. That part worked out fine. So we packed up the picnic and we got ourselves all dressed and put together. Dylan was wearing his nice button-up shirt to match. Sadly, I don't have any pictures of that because of what transpired for the rest of the day. We went ahead and exchanged gifts then, which was a great idea because of what transpired the rest of the day. So I got some chocolates and a coffee table and a new pillow because Dylan likes to spoil me. We decided to nix the bike ride, mainly because it was getting a little bit late in the day and we were both a little bit tired. Dylan's blood sugar was dropping, and so we were like, you know what, it's getting later, let's just go. We'll reserve our bonfire and we'll just sit out there, camp out. We can read to each other a little bit, have a great time. So we get there, and there's so many bonfire pits open. We were so happy about that because both of us were a little bit afraid. We didn't know what kind of a rush there would be on bonfires on Valentine's Day on a Sunday. I thought it would be possibly a lot worse than that, but also it's February, so like, how many people are going to the beach in February? They might have a reason not to. The main issue was the wind. It was relentless wind, and it was icy cold wind. So it was going at 15 to 17 miles per hour. I kept checking my weather app. Every once in a while, this same weather app told me that it was raining when it wasn't, so I don't know how much we want to trust that that's correct, but, you know, whatever. So we got the bonfire, and we set up camp there, but literally both of us were just bundled up under blankets, and we kept checking, and it kept saying that the wind was going to die down. So we were like, you know what, that's fine, we can wait it out. Dylan somehow managed to read to me for a little while, and then it started to get dark, and we were like, okay, I think the wind's dying down. This was wishful thinking, it was not dying down. So we decided to make the fire. I did make a fire. I burnt my finger, but I made a fire. That was the first time I've ever made a fire. Dylan was the one who actually got it to light, but that was just the initial step, and I did everything else.
I built a fire all alone. Well, hey, he helped.
I got it started.
Well, but I built the teepee too good.
Hannah built the teepee and she stoked it into a flame. I just got it to actually.
I also burnt my finger because I touched fire. That was dumb.
So we got the fire going, and we both roasted a single sausage over said fire, which I then accidentally dropped directly onto the sand and had to roast another sausage. And we had like 2 marshmallows each. And then the wind was just so strong, it started to blow the fire, and all of these little sparks were going out, and it started to really freak me out, especially when a single spark came and landed right here. And it wasn't necessarily going out right away. So we decided to abandon ship at that point. And, you know, we raked out the fire, got everything packed up, and then we went and sat in the nice warm car and finished our picnic there. And that was a lot better. All of this to say, we didn't have any opportunity to actually take any good pictures. So I'm going to show you the outfit that I had. I went ahead and dressed in it again today. As you can see, wearing a headscarf is actually one of the best things you can do for your hair as far as windy days, because I was out in the wind for several hours yesterday and my set is still here because I had this scarf over my head the entire time. Cannot recommend it enough, especially if you're going to be outside. Hats, scarves, their purpose is to protect your hair and your head from the elements, and I think that's sort of been forgotten nowadays. I was really happy with how the skirt turned out. I got these cute little patch pockets on it, which you can see in the video, and then it has buttons all down the front. Eventually, I would love to make a full play suit to go with it so that then I can wear it as a set, especially like on vacations or beach days or anything like that. So I'd love to hear in the comments what your Valentine's Day was like, if you celebrate Valentine's Day. Hope that you had a magical day, and I will talk to you all next time.